Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Maggie. Today we're going to be doing eye swatches and 3 makeup looks from the Kitsune collection, the Arcana palette from YouTuber McKenna. I've followed her for years and I saw when she was putting this out, I figured I would support her. All the artwork on it was done by herself and I feel like that's really cool. I feel like most people who do makeup collections don't actually produce their own art on it. So I thought that was really fun that she did her own art on it too. It's definitely made to look like old, you know, so it looks a little dirty, but it's not. The pans are kind of popping out just a tiny bit, but this is a newer brand, so I'm not going to give it too much black. I think it's really beautiful. I love the color story, and it also matches the packaging, which I feel like a lot of people don't do with their makeup collections. Like the color story on the inside does not look like what the packaging is. And I'm really impressed with it. I love all the names. It reminds me of like Lord of the Rings and Hobbits. Anyways, we're gonna start with the shade Magician, which is a nice sage mossy green. Then we're going in with Fool, which is a nice pastel lilac. There they are next to each other. I feel like they look really pretty next to each other and they really enhance brown eyes. Next we're going in with Death, which is a nice pumpkin fall orange. This one did definitely stain my packaging a little bit when I've played with it now, which kind of sucks, but it's a bright orange. It's gonna happen. Next is one of the shimmers, which is called The Lovers. This one is more gold based. And there they are together next to each other, another pair that I feel like could be worn together. Next is The Chariot, a nice deep red. This is one that you can use as a blush too, I would say. I do use it later in the tutorial. This is another shimmer, a little less sparkly than other ones, and it's definitely more of a duochrome. It's pink, but has some like rose gold, orange, yellow tones to it. Very beautiful. And I love that the colors next to each other always kind of like go together. Like these would look really great together. Next is The World, which is a nice robin eggs blue, but has a little bit more gray in it. It's definitely the one that I had a harder time building up, but still was able to get there. The Tower. It's a nice dusty mauve, one of my favorite colors to wear on my lips. Another one you could definitely wear on your cheeks. Next is probably the best shimmer in the palette, which is called The Moon. It's so icy and sparkly that I end up using this as highlighter a lot. And lastly, The Hermit, a nice matte brown, perfect for doing a smoky eyeliner. For a really simple look, I just took that moon shade and I put it in my inner corner on my brow bone and a little bit on the lid. And then I had that brown smoky eyeliner. I feel like I've definitely seen McKenna rock this look before. I did end up adding a little bit of Death over top, just to add a little bit more warmth to the liner. For the blush, I do go ahead and use The Tower, which is that nice dusty mauve color. And then I also used The Moon as my highlighter as well. Because it is an eyeshadow formula, it is a little bit, you know, harder to blend, but for the blush portion, but it still works out well. You just gotta really buff it out. A nice blush to the cheeks. Nothing too crazy, but it is such a beautiful dusty pink. And that is the first look. I really think it turned out really beautiful, something very natural, nothing too crazy. But this is why I like this palette. It has a lot of neutrals, but also some fun pops of colors, so you could do something a little bit more fun. The next look, we're going to take that dusty pink, The Tower, and we're going to start by putting that in the crease. And we also use a little bit of The Chariot, which is that dark red, just to deepen it a little bit. This look is very like Valentine's look to me, just because of all the tones that I use. After I've sufficiently blended the two, I go ahead and take that icy, kind of like pinky silver shadow from the palette called The Moon, and I place that over top on my lid for a nice sparkle. This is probably my favorite shade in the palette just because it's so mega sparkly and it's very multi-purpose. We also take the shade Temperance, which is that nice duochrome kind of pinky gold, and put it on the center part of the lid just to add a little bit more warmth to it. And we take Chariot and make a nice deep red burgundy liner. I've seen McKenna also do this. I did have to use some water and tip it into the eyeshadow palette to get it to really like glide onto the eye as a powder liner, but I feel like I have to do that with any eyeshadow, so there's no cons there. And it really blended out nicely. I'd never done a red liner look and I really liked the way it looked. It really brought the golds out in my eyes. And then I do take a small little tapered brush and I just kind of blend that into the crease a little bit just to soften it a little bit. And I do go back with that Tower Dusty Pink shade and blend the crease a little bit after I'm done kind of adding more of that Chariot shade to the crease. Kind of looks like a little bit of a graphic eye. Very fun. I'm going to clean up the lines and make it a little sharper. And if you feel like you lost any of the shadow, you can just go ahead and go back in with any one you want. I did decide to take the Hermit, which is that nice dark brown, and go over the liner a little bit just to add a little bit more depth. And then I cleaned it up one more time before I applied some mascara and some lashes. For my blush, I do take a mix of the Tower and the Chariot, so that dusty mauve and the red, and I apply that to my cheeks. I first go in with the dusty mauve on my center cheek, and then I do Chariot on the outer, just look a little bit more contoured. And then I use the shade Temperance as a little bit of a pink blush topper, and then I finish it off with using The Moon as my highlighter. And she wasn't kidding when she said you could use this as a highlighter. It is like so beaming from space. I love it. This look turned out really beautiful. It reminds me of like roses and chocolate, which is like perfect for February if you celebrate Valentine's Day. I do not, but you could if you wanted to whip this look out. I do go ahead and take that duochrome kind of rosy gold shade Temperance, and I tap that on the lip, and it adds a nice sparkle to the lips without having any like gloss, because I don't really like gloss. It just gets everywhere, but it added a nice little shine. And that is the completed second look. Here is me just showing how it kind of like got a little dirty and stained, but again, it's kind of hard to avoid with darker pigments on a lighter packaging. And it just kind of adds to the old school vibe anyways. For the third and final look, we're going to start taking with the shade The World, which is that nice robin egg kind of grayish blue, and we're going to take that all over the lid. Then we're going to buff the Fool, which is that lilac, into the crease. I would say by the end of this, it's like very fairy core vibes. I really liked how it turned out. Then we're just going to kind of blend the two together. And then under the bottom lash, we're going to take the shade The Magician and add it to the lower lash line, which I usually do not add a lot of makeup to the lower lash line. So this was unique for me. I did find smaller tipped flat shadow brushes like this really applied the pastels a lot more pigmented, so that is to note, but I feel like you have to do that with any pastel shade. They're just harder to pick up on your eyes. After I got the desired look, I did take The Moon, which is that really beautiful shimmer color, and I just lightly tapped it all over the lid to add a bit of sparkle to that eye look. And then I take the Tower, which is that dusty pink, and I try to buff it into the crease next to the Fool. And then I also take Temperance, which is that duochrome, and a little bit over that pink. And then I finish off with some more Moon in my inner corners and on my brow bone. Definitely very fairy core. For the blush this time, I did take Death, which is that nice warm-toned orange pumpkin. Just wanted to see what it would look like, and it turned out well. And I also added The Moon as my highlighter. It's very fun and pastel, very spring. here is the look with just a little mascara and no lashes, but as you know, I love lashes, so I do add some here in a second just to vamp it up a little bit more. I really enjoyed the way this turned out. It really fits the whole fairy core vibe that I feel like McKenna rocks. And I added some little faux freckles because she always has little faux freckles. And I really liked how this turned out. I think the rosy, kind of chocolatey look that I did for the second look was more my favorite, but this one was fun for me to try out. I will link this palette below. Even if you don't pick it up, I hope this inspired you to try some different makeup looks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Bye!